Alright, here's my CM60 from Refinecolor in my driveway. I'm going to go ahead and unpackage the shaker machine right here because that's on wheels. So I'm going to go ahead and take the crate apart and I'm going to go ahead and roll that in. And here's the shaker out of its crate, and it's on wheels, so it'll roll. So on this particular crate, you have little flanges that you have to bend up on all four sides. And then once you do that, you simply just put a hammer under the edge and then just lift up, and then opens it up. So just like that, lift up. And inside here, you have the RF-CF60 printer. And here's what came in the third crate. So I'll go ahead and unpack these boxes. Alright, first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and unpack everything from the crate. Alright, I took all the parts and unwrapped it. This is everything to create the base to put the printer on. So all the parts are here. So we'll go ahead and start the assembly. And here's everything that comes in the assembly kit. Alright, first thing we're going to do is screw on the wheels to the bottom rails. So you can see it here, 4 screws per wheel. And next we're going to go ahead and screw in the 4 legs. Take notice of the height of the leg coming through. It should be flush. And then we go ahead and take the nut and raise it to the top. This is what it should look like with the wheels and legs attached. Next we're going to take a vertical rail, and then on top we're going to add the bottom rail with the wheels and the legs, and we're going to attach it with 4 screws. So it'll be 2 on each side, and it goes on like this. And this is what both vertical bases with the bottom plate attached should look like. Next we're going to take the horizontal bar, 3 screws on each side, and they go across the 2 here. This is what it should look like with the bottom vertical bar attached to the 2 horizontal bars. Now we'll go ahead and install the top one. Now here's what it should look like with the top and bottom vertical bars attached to both horizontal bars. And don't forget the 2 screws on the inside of the vertical bar, 1 on each side. Next we're going to mount the 2 auxiliary bars to the side here with 4 screws. Just take notice the direction it's facing. This is what it should look like with both auxiliary bars attached. Next we're going to take the auxiliary stick here and we're going to pass it through here. Like so. We're going to take the right paper feeder, loosen this up, have it sitting on the 1 auxiliary stick, and then we're going to thread the 2nd auxiliary stick in and then all the way to the other side. This is what it should look like with the right paper feeder on. We're going to do the same thing with the left paper feeder. We're going to go ahead, rest it on the 1 auxiliary stick. I'm going to pull this out and then insert it in here to attach. This is what it should look like with the right and left paper feeders attached. Then we're going to take 4 of these screws here, so that'll stop the auxiliary stick from sliding. This is what it should look like with the screws in place. The next part, I'm going to go ahead and take the foam off, take the plastic off, and we'll be ready to go sit it on top of the base. And just real quick, the screw that goes to the bottom of the printer is smaller than the one we've been using to build the stand. So that's the bottom of the printer, and this is what we've been using. Now with someone helping you, go ahead and lift the printer and go ahead and sit it on the base. Alright, for this next part, you have somebody help you lift the printer on the base, and you'll see on the here with the screws, it goes in the big part, and then with all 4 screws in the big holes, you push it back, and then you go ahead and tighten all 4 screws. So you do have 4 of these screws. 2 front and 2 back. Next we're going to take the ink bottles out of the holder, and then we're going to fasten it to the top of the printer with 2 screws. This is what it looks like with the 2 screws in place. And then go ahead and put the ink bottles back in, and then put the guard back in. And then we're going to take 2 screws here and go ahead and screw in the waste ink holder. This is what it looks like installed. And then go ahead and put the waste ink jug and go ahead and get the cap screwed onto it. Now we're going to go ahead and put the hoses on the corresponding places. So you have one white without a filter on it, that'll go here, and then you have a white with the filter that goes to the back of the bottle. Okay, so the white without the filter goes here, the white with the filter goes back here. Now it's okay, you may have to trim some of these hoses down so they fit comfortably. So I'll go ahead and do that. And this is what it looks like with the hoses to the ink bottles. The one white here, the white with the filter here, color matches, black to black, yellow to yellow, cyan to cyan, magenta to magenta. Next we have to do is hook power to the ink stirrer. So this just connects here. And this is what it looks like with the ink stirrer hooked up. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and work on the shaker unit. So you have the shaker unit here. I already went ahead and put the vent hose on it. You'd have to buy this separately. And here's all the components. So I'm going to go ahead and start putting it together. We're going to go ahead and slide this pole into here and also into here. So it looks like this now. Alright, and then using these screws we're going to attach both of these here and here. When you're done, this is what it should look like. And then we're going to take the 2 poles and going to run them through the holes. So it looks like that. And then we're going to use these little screws here in these 4 holes. We're going to center the pole left to right, and we're going to go ahead and screw them in. Now it looks like this. Now we're going to go ahead and slide the left roller here on. And then we're going to put the right roller on. Then we go ahead and put the take-up roller here in between both, push them together, and you're going to tighten these two here to tighten. And if you notice, I centered it against here. And they'll go ahead and take the screw part here, which gives it power. We'll go ahead and push it in, and go ahead and screw it down. So it looks like that. And then we're going to take the cooling fan bracket. There'll be one on each side. So like that. 4 screws. And then we're going to take the fan here, and we're going to put a screw through here on each side. Go ahead and mount it, and then the power screws in right there. Alright, when complete, it should look like this. Now this is what the completed shaker assembly should look like with the vent hose attached. We're going to go ahead and use a Phillips screwdriver, and we're going to unscrew the carriage bracket here. Then we're going to go ahead and take the power cord, plug it in here, and go ahead and connect it to power. Before we turn on the main switch, we're going to go ahead and push these on. Absorption and heat, and we're going to power on. And now it should initialize. Now once it's initialized, we're going to go ahead and make sure it goes left and right with no issues. Left, then right. So, and then we're going to push out, make sure the rollers are turning. Alright, that looks good. Alright, before installing the film, we're going to slide these over, like so, all the way over. And then in here lift up, and that's going to raise the rollers up. Now we're going to go ahead and get the film ready to put on the printer. I'm going to pull these black caps out. And then I'm going to go ahead and unwrap it. And here's the film with it unwrapped. You do not have to put these back in. But I went ahead and rested the film here. I'm going to go ahead and mount it here and here. Push it in, and then tighten it here and here. Just make sure it's centered. Now this is what it looks like once it's attached. I went ahead, start pushing it through, and as you see, it starts coming out the other side. Alright, now through here, we're going to slide these over, and it's going to create a guide here and here. And then we're going to screw it down, and then we're going to drop the rollers down. So here is the left guide in position and the right guide in position. And then we're going to go ahead and tighten the 4 screws on each side. And we're going to go ahead and drop all the rollers down. Alright, now with the guides in position, rollers are down, we're going to go ahead and push out. Make sure it's nice and straight. Perfect. Alright, on the side where the ink bottles are, right under here, you're going to see the network port where you're going to go ahead and plug in your Ethernet cable here. And it should look like that. Then I'm going to hook the other side of the Ethernet cable to my computer. In this case, I'm using a 1 gigabit USB converter to plug into here. And that's what it should look like. Now keep in mind, this printer will need a direct connection to the computer. You cannot plug it into your router. That will not work. It needs a static IP assigned. Depending on the version of Windows, you need to get to your network adapter settings. On Windows 11, this is what it looks like. Then I'm going to go ahead and change the IP assignment. From automatic, I'm going to change it to manual. IP4, turn that on, and then I'm going to put this IP address. 192.168.127.11. Okay. Subnet 255.255.255.0. Okay. The gateway is 192.168.127.1. And then we go ahead and save. And DNS would be the same if it requires it. 192.168.127.1. There we go. Alright, that part is done. And this is what it should look like when the IP address is done. Now I'm going to go ahead and install the software. So I'm going to click on that. So we're going to install Print EXP. Go ahead and say yes. Going to hit next. We're going to install. And we're going to go ahead and let that run. Installation is complete. I'm not going to launch it just yet because I'm going to go ahead and add the ink. Now you also may get a pop-up to install Visual Studio. It is in Chinese, but the default buttons are already highlighted, so just click on those and go ahead and install it. We're going to go ahead and put the ink in. Just make sure, give it a good shake, each one, before we put it in. So shake each color. And then you're going to put the ink in corresponding to each color. Magenta, cyan, yellow, black, and then white. And this is what it looks like after the ink is added. That's one whole bottle in each ink tank. Alright, after we put the ink in the ink tanks, we're going to go open up Print EXP, go to Settings, and we're going to load ink for 30 seconds. Alright, and then we're going to load ink 5 more seconds now. Okay. Now when you're done loading ink, move the carriage to the left and you should see ink in both ink pads like this. Once that's done, you're going to go ahead and press clean right here. Head cleaning is complete. Then you will print a nozzle check by pressing nozzle. Then the heads will run, and then you'll see the color pattern come out. Less than 10 lines missing is normal, so this looks good. And here's a closer inspection of the nozzle check. Alright, you're going to lift the stand here from the shaker. You're going to run the film through here. I'm going to pick this up. Then you're going to run it, pull it through here, and then through the heating element here, go down, and then you're going to tape it to here so it gets wound up on here. Then go ahead and plug in the shaker. You may have to turn this out, and then you can see each switch has a certain function. Power switch, powdering, shaking, heating, cooling, and then another heating switch. Okay. Turn them all on, and you can see the different functions here. You can see the heating element is on. You'll see where the shaker powder goes in, and it gets spun around in there. And then the shaker function is in here. So what you'll see is if I go out, you'll see it's starting to shake it now. And that is normal. Alright, next I'm going to pour the shaker powder, or the adhesive powder. I'm going to pour that in here. Alright, with everything running, I'm going ahead, I did a large batch. Alright. I'm running for 16 shirts here. So, when everything's running right, printer is adding color, and then it adds the white on top. Then you have the shaker powder here. Now as it's coming through, the shaker powder is being applied as it rolls through, and the actual shaking part is taking all the excess off. So you can see that. And then when that's done, goes through the dryer here. It'll come out through here. This will cool dry it a little bit here, and then it'll wind up on this roll. Now there is a bit of a control thing as far as how much shaker powder you're putting down and how much it's shaking. Because when it's shaking, it's dropping powder into this tray on the bottom. So there's definitely a balancing between how much you're shaking it and how much powder you're putting it down. This seems to be working well for me right now. Because what you don't want to happen is run out of shaker powder while the prints are running through. So there is a bit of a balancing act between these two. So ideally you want just enough shaker powder to keep it going over the image, but you don't want too much. So I find this to be a good amount. So if it's thinner than this, you may have to increase it. If it's a lot, then definitely slow it down. But this seems to work well for me right here. And here's what it looks like coming out of the drying process of the shaker powder. So as you see, the shaker powder is now dried. And now it'll go through the cooling fans and then onto the roller. So here's one of the ones cut off now. So you can see the color and everything here. And I'm going to turn it upside down. And you can see the glue. See the glue dried on the back. Alright, we've already went ahead, pre-pressed the shirt, used the lint roller on it. You're going to place this on here. You're going to put a piece of parchment paper over the top, and then I press it for 310 for 25 seconds. Once you get it off the press, let it cool down, because you're going to want to do a cool peel. Alright, let it cool down. Then you're going to take your time. You can roll it slowly, left to right, right to left, and then just roll it nice and easy. And then this is what it should look like. And here's the finished product.